to Unashamed Unafraid, a show unashamed about sexual addiction recovery and unafraid of coming unto Christ for healing, where we share real recovery stories, learn from experts, and share resources that actually work. So join us in being unashamed and unafraid.
Welcome to Unashamed Unafraid. We are here for another not story episode, not live unashamed episode, not professional episode. What even is this?
This is it, man.
Do you guys remember Steve?
Do we wrap the episode up there? Or are we good?
Yeah. Steve,
wait,
I
hold
don't
on.
think that
Before,
anyone
okay,
has...
no, I know. No one cares. Before, I'm serious about these shoes.
You like my shoes?
I like the shoes.
If you're not listening right now, if you're not watching the YouTube version of this podcast right now, hop on so you can see my fresh new kicks.
Do that thing, where you make the YouTube window small. You didn't think us old guys. You don't think me and James knew about that stuff. Yeah, you can make the little YouTube video small while you're on the other apps. Look at all these young guys looking at me like I don't know. I know.
You like my shoes?
Yes, I like those.
Honestly, that's probably one of the best compliments you've ever given me because I know you know shoes. I have never seen you not wearing a nice pair of shoes. It's kind of Steve's thing.
Yeah, that's why it stood out to me.
So how does it
sneakerhead or whatever? I just want to know where you got them. I just want the story. Turns out this is a story episode.
Well, I found out something recently, guys. If you really want a nice pair of shoes from Nike and you don't want to spend $150, you can do a hack. What I just really found out. A lot of times there's these guys that have like 90 pairs of shoes and they just buy them compulsively from Nike. And they spend all this money on them and they wear them 5 times.
No, they don't.
And then they
sell them on eBay. I don't know anyone who does that.
At Steven Shields. And then they sell them on eBay and you get them for like $30. And that's what I did. They're basically new. So I just washed them. I put a new pair of laces in them, and they're my favorite shoes I've ever had. So I think actually, Steve, you're not the first person. You're the 4th person that has complimented on me on these shoes today. And that
dude, those are sick.
That's
4 times.
I'm
today.
serious.
Sick.
Yeah. Like I actually get that many compliments.
Dude, I got
on these shoes,
custom
and it
ones.
boosts my self-esteem so much.
I got custom ones made, and the only people who compliment me are like women over 65. James has seen it.
Yeah, it's real.
All right, anyways, point being, I miss you.
Yeah. Welcome back. How does it feel to be back?
I had the experience in recording all the time with me, James, and Chris sitting here that we would walk in the room. People would come and record with us, and they'd be like, man, that was just, like they'd tell us after, like, that was just so great being with you guys. It's just so, like, inspirational to be here with you guys. It just feels so, and I'm like, okay, it's another day, like a fish doesn't know it's in water, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been interesting. I haven't been to a recording in 5 months. I think 6 maybe.
Almost 6.
Almost 6, right? And it was just cool to walk in here and just feel the spirit of brotherhood and feel the connection. And so it's good to be back from my own heart. That's what I would say. This is the love and connection that's here. There's hope, turns out.
And you got married since last time you came. Is that right?
I did get married since last time. So we'll I think that's a later episode.
Yeah.
I think everyone wants to wait till I've been married for a year. So like we'll get real, right? Because they're gonna be like, didn't he just get divorced? Like, this is probably crap. Like, this thing's gonna blow up.
Yeah.
So everyone wants that episode. So either it'll blow up or it won't. I don't know. James married us, so I don't know. James, what's your bet on it? I'm
betting it's gonna last.
Like
no,
2 years
it's
gonna last that long.
This will be our full circle as to why I'm here. I am the healthiest I have personally ever been. And in the process of the last year, we've talked kind of in the background of creating the Unashamed Guidebook. It's not lost on people that James and I started a therapy practice and have been practicing as therapists now for whatever. Time it's like 5 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is 2020. Yeah, like 5 years. And so we've just been on this journey with this guidebook. So there's a couple things that have been happening with the guidebook. So the experience we kept having with people is, and this is what I want to say. I have no disparaging comment to any group therapy practice. Like there are individual ones. Like I can point out individual ones and be like, yeah, this is super marginal therapy. I've talked to 30 people who've been through their program. All of them said it sucked. Like whatever they're doing, it doesn't work. So I'm not saying there isn't. And I say that because sometimes people have bad experiences, and I want to encourage people, like, if that 12-step group feels shaming, leave. If that therapy feels like you're just talking to a friend, stop paying for it. And I think it's in some of that energy that I have that I'm like, people need good stuff, you know? And I remember we talk about Warrior Heart all the time, right? And it's we took it from John Eldridge. It's John Eldridge's thing. Warrior Heart's a copy and paste job. And what John Eldridge did is he was gatekeeping it at first, and then he realized, he's like, there's so many people that need this message and experience. I can't get it to them fast enough. Anyone else in the world, if you just want to literally take my retreat and run it without me, go do it. Because there's just so many people that are in need. And I think James and I crossed this bridge of, there's therapy that works. I think the therapy that we do works. There's really other good therapies. There are really good church community things. I've seen people in evangelical church, in LDS church, in Catholic church, right? So I've seen people in Protestant church. I've seen people in church do great healing, right? And we've had them here on the podcast. So, like, we've had different. So if everyone's like, you only heal in 12 steps, I'm like, really, go listen to these 20 episodes on Unashamed to tell me that you only heal in 12 step, right? Or when people are like, oh, it's all about therapy, I'm like, really, go listen to these 20 episodes on Unashamed where they never went to therapy a day and their marriage is awesome and they figured it all out, right? And so I don't think there's this particular secret sauce about therapy or meeting with your men's church group or going to a 12-step group or going to a different self-guided group or whatever. And so I think what we want to do with the guidebook is we wanted to say, if we could take all of this together and create a peer-facilitated, self-guided experience, so to be clear on what that means, right? We got 7 of us in this room right now. So, hey, Mason. Hey. So, right, we got 7 of us in this room right now. Is how could the 7 of us engage in a recovery process that isn't a church group, isn't a therapy? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with any of those things. It's just what people are trying to pull together and get together. And so that's what we've done. So we are about 2 seconds away. James and I will be final touches and done. The book will be going to edit. So it will be done. It's good, to be direct. One of the things is we have a bunch of co-authors on it. So we have a bunch of therapists and church people we put it in front of a bunch of people. And I say the same thing to everyone. I said, tell me where we're wrong. Tell me where we're missing it. Tell me where it's like, that is not how it works. Like I'm ready to hear. So we put it in front of therapists who have been doing sexual addiction recovery for 30 years. One big shout out to Rick Reynolds. Awesome, his therapy programs when he does down in Texas. He just did a study with 4,000 couples. 4,000 couples who have experienced betrayal. And so dude knows his stuff. He's educated. One of our co-authors. Another podcast, friends of ours who are super cool, the Therapy Brothers, right? A lot of people listen to them, and we traded episodes and stuff. Brandon Patrick. So I remember when we went to lunch and I showed it to him on a napkin. He's like, "Can I take this?" The napkin. I'm like, "You're in, bro. Just write this with me and let's do it." And so I just want to be really clear. This isn't a project that is a Steve project or a James project. This is a project of as many of the bright minds in recovery that we could find, from therapy people to church people to just men in recovery, like so many sitting in this room. So that's who's authored it. That's who's kind of brought it together. And it's Unashamed Unafraid. It's free, right? We're giving away for free so people can be, obviously we'll like kick the book out and help people facilitate groups and answer questions, or, as an organization, we'll do that, right? And Sam, you and I have talked about that, but and so we're here now. I'm very excited about this episode, actually, because instead of being like, well, shh, it's back there. We're like, get ready. I don't know. What did I miss, James?
Here it comes.
Here it comes.
So, Steve, one thing that I think you glazed over just a little bit, and I think it'd be really helpful for people to know, what actually is the problem you're attempting to solve with this Unashamed Guidebook? Because there's a million like it, and you started into saying, like, oh, people tell me all the time, but you didn't tell them what people tell you all the time. What do people tell you all the time that inspired this?
Well, what you tell me what you're I don't know that I know what you're referring to. So you tell. What are you saying?
You can't even remember the things you say, Steve.
No, I remember. It just could be one of two things. I don't know which one you're referring to.
Well, I'm just curious, like the conversations you've had with people, there's clearly something that's coming up over and over and over and over again. After hearing people's stories and hearing them talk about their healing stories, that is being missed or not fully condensed or not all in one place. Or
Oh yeah. I have like 20 of those.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing is the biggest thing is, history lesson wise, is there's James is messing with me. The biggest thing is like history lesson wise is there's two. When you look at any church therapy program or men's group, right? These are basically three categories you have. If you go into recovery, so you're looking at porn tomorrow, and you're like, I want to do something about it. You are going to end up in one of three places. So you're going to end up in a therapist's office who's going to say, I'm an expert in sexual addiction, or we do compulsive behavior, we do addictions. And they're going to have whatever their model is, or whatever model they got trained in, or whatever model they bought, or whatever, And so they're going to walk you through that. Or you're going to end up in a church group, right? Which they're going to come primarily from a religious education and background, right? So depending on how that comes from, they're going to think of any spiritual exercise, right, to remove that experience. The clinical people, therapists, are generally giving you like a clinical answer, right? Or you're going to end up in a peer facilitated group. So the most popular being 12-step, right? But they're not the only one. So there's a ton of, you can go online and you can find, I can name 3 or 4 groups right now off the top of my head in Utah that they have men's retreats. Warrior Heart's one of them, but they have men's retreats weekends, and they have Zoom calls you can get every month, and they have brotherhood lunches, and they have kind of their whole system of, this is kind of how we think it works, right? And so what that typically looks like in recovery is this. What I can do a therapist's office, they're going to say, it's about your trauma. It's about, your cognitive thinking. And if you would think different, the conversation you and I just having on the phone before about your sobriety, when you're like, yeah, I feel like I have enough distance between like when that activation comes up and I feel like I've kind of created the gap of choice in my thinking process. That was a very like therapy answer, right?
Yeah.
And so where the spiritual answer is going to be, I've surrendered my life to Christ, right? God, just feel like God's healed me. I feel like I have purpose. But people on the podcast do it all the time. Like, Ian, what do you mean? Oh, by the way, Ian's here.
Hey, guys.
Classic Ian.
Yeah. Flying under the radar.
What is Nicole, his wife, going to say when she's like, I listened to the episode for 15 minutes. I didn't even hear you were there.
I think she'll say classic Steve.
And this is why I love Ian. Oh, no, Ian's going to drop some knowledge on us here.
Wow.
Ian's going to drop some knowledge on us here.
That was good.
So, which, by the way, your wife's dope.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, she's hilarious. So, cognitive answer is the one you gave me. Therapy is going to be figuring out. Spiritual is, I felt it. I felt it. Brotherhood is, you know what? Stop thinking about it all the time and praying about it all the time. Stop. Just do the thing. Let's just do the thing, right? And on some level, all of those are true. And where we have found, to get to the point, is that people get in one of those camps and they're missing what's in the other camps. And really, it's about bringing a full experience together through all of it. And what's important about that experience is, on some level, and I'll be clear, James and I make our living doing therapy on people. So I exist in that camp. I'm a huge church person. And this is a peer facilitated group. So I feel like I have a foot in all the camps. But at the end of the day, no matter what camp you're in, it is a self-guided process. You have to choose, is this working for me or not working for me, and figure it out. And so really the guidebook is putting all of those experiences together and saying all of the people who recover for sure experience these things. And if you don't experience these things, we've never met anyone who recovers. And so it's not about steps of, and that's not a knock on the 12 steps, being like the 12 steps is dumb. Just, it's not steps like a recipe, right? Or, because I can do it with the therapy people too, the online ads. I can have you quit porn in 2 weeks if you go through our thing. They're going to give you steps, just like the 12 steps, right? And so it's not the steps of all of that, right? It's what do you need to experience? And really creating a peer group to allow people to have the range of all of those experiences, including maybe you do need to go to therapy and do some trauma stuff because your peer facilitated group is not going to do that for you. So you might need to go pay a therapist. You might need to go on a men's retreat and hang out there. You probably need to get back in church and do the church thing, right? It's pulling all of those in together. It is not a statement, and this is why I'm going on about it. It's not a statement of, oh, by the way, we have the right answer. And that's where I'll quote Kurt Frankum, showed up to the UCAP conference. So Kurt Frankum, we've had him on the show before, a podcaster guy, and he says to me, Steve, every therapist who wants to come on my podcast or coach, they have the answer. And they send me an email and they say, Kurt, I have the answer for porn and sexual addiction. I have the secret sauce. And the truth is, like, 90% of it's all the same. Like, as we meet people, like, I have the secret sauce. So I met one therapist. It's like, I have the secret sauce. I'm like, I'm sure I've probably heard of it. He's like, no, I don't want to tell you. And he's telling me that it is ART, which, by the way, is like one of the primary modalities, at least in several states, for working with porn addiction. I'm like, you and probably 2,000 other therapists on the Wasatch Front do this, but I understand it's your secret sauce. The scarcity crap bothers me. But, right, and so it's bringing it all together. So we're not telling you, hey, the other things you're doing suck. This is it. We're saying this is a process that can bring it all together, that can have it all work in harmony to work together. Wow. And here's how you have these experiences in a self-guided way to really do all of the pieces that we've experienced when someone comes and sits on these chairs and couches and says, yeah, I did that 5 years ago and I don't do it anymore. And they're sitting here with their wife who's like, and I love him. And we're like, how did you get there? Done. Ian?
No, that's I've had the opportunity to kind of go through this guidebook. Steve gave me a peek behind the curtain and let me kind of work through a few of these experiences, and it's been unlike anything I've worked through before. I've done the 12 steps, or I attempted to do the 12 steps. I've tried talk therapy, and I don't know, this just felt different. It brought a different spirit into my life, because it wasn't just you do these steps and you'll be free. It's go through these experiences and watch what kind of healing takes place. And it's been really cool to do it. I haven't done every single experience on there, truth be told, but the ones that I have done have been awesome and really influential in my recovery. So,
Ian, what's one of the experiences that had like a huge impact on you? I know it's hard to choose one. I've been having a really hard time thinking.
Oh
like,
man, you're gonna put me on the spot.
Because you've also been behind the curtain with a couple buddies,
Yes.
also
Sam
doing the things.
is
Yeah.
actively working through these experiences. I've done about 20 of them.
Ooh, you're moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Here's- back
I
to Ian.
was
Back
for a
to
while.
Ian.
Oh, yeah. I think it's hard to find, identify there's more than or one, but for me, something that was really lacking in my recovery was safety. And there's a whole ton of experiences that are surrounding creating safety in your recovery. And for me, that was really impactful because it helped me identify areas in my life where I can find safety and areas in my life where I don't feel safe, so that I then can, when I'm feeling unsafe, I know how I can transition to a place of emotional or physical safety, so that I can stop a relapse before it happens. Because almost 9 times out of 10, whenever I would relapse with pornography, it was usually, I can trace it back to I was in an unsafe situation. And so safety for me has been has been really influential. Also, creating community and having that accountability has been really huge for me too. So there's lots of things. I could probably go on and on, but for me, the safety was the first thing that came to my mind.
One for me that was huge was it's in this. So the way it's organized is kind of like all the sections or just principles. You were talking about this earlier. There are just general principles across recovery that just work. They just work. If you look at people who have recovered, you see the same things over and over again.
They've
right?
experienced them or they haven't.
Right. And so it's broken up into sections that can help you experience what it's like to heal in those areas.
Like
Well,
safety.
Like
Yeah,
safety.
safety.
That's one of them. The one that was huge for me was under the section Unashamed or Living Unashamed. And it was like find 3 men who know how to do something that you have shame about this one was crazy. I couldn't believe you came up with this, Steve. And reach out to them and ask them to teach you something. Because that got me in touch with this little boy who feels stupid and ashamed and incompetent, and that's this huge thing that drives my addiction. And to forced me to have the vulnerability to take something that I don't know how to do as a man, and reach out to 3 men and ask them for help.
Mm-hmm.
Right, one of them was Josh. Right, he's listening in right now. What's up, Josh? I said, hey, dude, like I had this super bad shoulder injury, and I used to love working out, but I'm finally getting to the point where I can lift again. But it's been so long since I've been in the gym. Like I just feel stupid every time I go because I can't remember what the machines are called.
Yeah.
I'm like how many?
And
sets
no men have
do-
ever felt shame in a gym before.
Yeah, I know. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Right, and like
Tough.
he's the guy to go to. Like that's one of the things in his recovery that just blew the door wide open. And shout out his story just dropped today. So, but it just going and I asked him, I was like, hey, dude, like, can I come to your house? And he lives an hour away from me, right? But like, I was like, hey, can I come to your house and can you teach me like how to gym?
I love it.
And dude, I left his house. Well, I got to meet his family too, which was cool. I know his wife, but I haven't met his kids or anything. But it was just it was like very special to go in and just have him father me, and to like actively practice going to other men and asking them for help. That's just something you don't learn to do. If you are struggling in recovery, if you are struggling with an addiction, I'm gonna guess
If you're
that
a
you don't
man-
know how to ask people for help.
Yeah, if
because-
you're a man, period.
Yeah, if you're
Yeah.
a man, right? Because, I mean, there's just those two things don't go together, right? It's not safe. It's not safe. It's almost always paired. So
Yeah.
What do
it
you-
was huge for me. It was huge, and it just unlocked something. And that's what's cool about it is not only am I like working on stuff that's helping me get sober, but like my soul's coming alive. My spirit feels enlivened.
Recovery.
Recovery.
Not sobriety.
Yeah, it's
recovery.
Not
Say
sobriety.
more, James. Eerie voice from the heavens.
Oh, James, are you here?
Oh, yeah. Oh, hey.
James.
Yeah.
Christy would also say classic Steve.
It's classic Steve.
No, that's the difference between fighting for sobriety and actually choosing to live in recovery. And that's why it's a recovery guidebook. It's not a sobriety guidebook. It's a recovery guidebook. And, so what we're putting together, like there are, what is it, Steve? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 themes, I guess, that we kind of really hit on. Is that what it is?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, 7. I mean, as we call them, the guy experience. You said principles, which is
sure,
true, but
yeah. And then with
8 actually, but-
with those,
I mean, pain,
yeah, that's true.
pain
yeah.
is a dependent.
Sure,
but
yeah. But with those, then there are experiences attached to those, right? That you try to go.
I believe it's 43 experiences in total.
Right. So you go and you're having an experience with those 7 to 8 kind of principles, right?
Yep.
And what this does is it gives, the reason like we're wanting to put this together is to give somebody a practical way to engage in recovery that will have a natural byproduct of sobriety at some point. But it's like, how do I do life and live a recovered lifestyle? And so like somebody might look at the guidebook and think, oh, there's too much in here. This is going to be too overwhelming. I'm like, no, rather than like 12 steps, there's only like 7 or 8 steps, so to speak. But you have a practical step-by-step things you can actually just do rather than just go
Well,
to a meeting and like talk about some things. Like there are some practical things that you can engage in and work to experience and have a felt experience in your life where something transforms. Because now I went over to Josh's and had him teach me how to gym. That's an experience that transforms somebody. That actually creates change.
And I think part of it came from is we've recorded all these episodes. Like I say, like there's themes, right? And so, like when I was hosting, it was always like, dude, no one cares. Get to the point, right? Like in the storytelling, so what I always tell people, I'm like, if I cut you off, it's because you're rambling, right? And people would always be like, Steve talks too much, which is true, but also, right? It's because I'm like, we want to sift. I want you to name the experience. If I could have the perfect recovery story on this podcast, it would be where they just curate the 4 or 5 experiences and they give us enough context to understand those experiences. That's the perfect episode, right? And in all our humanness, it doesn't, but always those experiences end up coming out. Like that's when like the spirit hits in that episode and the hope for recovery is, birthed in the spirit in that moment, because it's about recovery and it's about what people experience. And that's the thing we realize with the guidebook is we don't call them steps, and nor can you check it. So how it works in group, when you come in a group, you don't report your sobriety or, own your stuff or did I do my homework or not. There's not a way to check the box, actually. It's really like, so safety is the first experience.
You can't hide behind the...
Yeah.
Well, it's
Because
super...
who hasn't brought your shame into recovery and said, now I'm going to do recovery perfect.
Right.
Well, it's funny
so-
because I was like, one of the feedbacks that I gave you as I was reading through the original book is I was like, Steve, there's not, like, how do I know if I'm done?
How do I know I won?
I wrote that in the little comment section on the
I
Google
remember.
Doc.
Yeah.
And you responded to the comment and you were like,
You
that's
don't.
the point.
Yeah. Have fun
And
chasing
it
that.
like blew my mind. I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and so you come to, like this is, and we're about to tell everyone, send us an email and you can read it. We want your story, but it is one of the purposes of sharing this episode. But what we want is, so the first thing we realize is safety. The first thing anyone needs to experience is safety. If you do not have safety, you will never be honest. And this is one I'm like, I've taken it to a bunch of therapists, pastor people, whatever. So if you're listening to the podcast and you think I'm wrong, I actually would love for you to email me and tell me why we're wrong, because me and a whole bunch of all these other people think we're right. So if we're wrong, we'd like to know because we want to be in the truth, right?
Yep.
But so I'll say
we're still in editing mode, so we'd love to have.
Feel free to say I'm
Yeah.
wrong, but I'll be honest. I'll say like it's gone through enough vetting outside of me, like
Yeah.
outside of like, well, me and James think,
Right.
Well, me and James have worked with maybe 100 clients, and so we think it's beyond that. And what I'd say is like, I have never worked with anyone active live ammo in recovery and told them that and had them not be like, oh my gosh, that's the truest thing anyone told me about my recovery. And I haven't put it in front of any experts or people that are not like, oh yeah, that's right. That kind of is like the first thing we should be doing before we try and do all the things. And so when we look at safety, I'm like, because I've done it. I've sat a bunch of times with the dude who's mid-affair or looking at porn every day. Like even caught, even with their life in the balance and everything threatening, they're not going to be honest and they're not going to stop. Like we have the statistics, we have the math. It's not how it works. They might feel so shamed that they go underground because they don't want to be in, emotional prison with whoever they're in relationship with, meaning wife, church, family, whoever, right? So they might like toe the line for a second, but their heart's not changed, which means they're never going to get sober, and it blows up on them, right? And so my personal recovery story is an example of that. And so with the experiences, when you go to group, I don't say, hey, I'm Steven, here's how many days sober I am, or here's how many boxes I've checked, right? Or I did the homework. You show up to group and it's like, hey, Ian, you're working on safety. That's great. What have you experienced?
And that's what I love about it.
Did you do any of the experiences?
Yeah.
Nothing. And if you're experiencing safety, you will have these traits in your life. You will be feeling this way. You will be acting this way. These doors will be open to you. So guess who gets to be on the safety step till they figure it out? Everybody. You don't move on to the next experience. If you're not experiencing safety, there's nothing else to do in your recovery. And so it's really about people being able to have those experiences, like James said, where they change. Where he said, like, when I went to his house and I meet his kids, and think about, there are layers to that influence, right? You brought up fathering. That is a man older than you. You are still single, figuring it out. He's married and has the kiddo. There's a type and shadow. There are layers when you go into that experience. And that's why with the experience, it's personal. That's why we didn't put in the book, have a guy go teach you how to gym. I don't know if you need a guy to teach you how to gym. I don't know if you need a guy to teach you how to organize your budget or teach you how to ride a bike or whatever it is, teach you how to date. I don't know what you need. You know. Go experience that. And that's really how the whole guidebook is written, is you got to have this experience. If you don't experience safety, you will go nowhere in your recovery. We'll bet the farm against you. And again, anyone's happy to email me. I'm super unsafe in my recovery, and I feel super, super sober, and I'm really, really happy in recovery. I'd love to get that email from someone, right? It's just not true. And so when people are able to be held accountable to what they actually need, right, that's how we wrote the guidebook. You need safety. It's your job to figure out how to get yourself safe. Like the guidebook is like, Ian, go tell your spouse, go tell Nicole that she needs to do X, Y, D, or your parents, or your boss at work, or your pastor at church, or bishop, or whoever. This is what you need to say. No, it's like either you create safety in your life or not, man. So figure it out and get on the road of finding happiness recovery. Or I guess you don't have to be in this group, or you don't have to hang out with us, but if you want to do it. And so I think that's just, obviously I have a passion about it, but that's what I love, is it's really saying, like, you have the power to do it. Here's what you need to experience. Here are some ways to open the doors for you, so you're not stuck being like, what? I want to do the thing. What's the thing? Tell me the thing. We'll tell you the thing. A whole bunch of it's in there, from the stuff all the church people do, the stuff. Because again, you look in recovery land, there are only like 3 or 4 modalities. Everything everyone's doing in recovery is either based on what Dr. Bob wrote. It's either based on a couple of camps from substance abuse camps. There's a couple of names where people took the substance abuse stuff and they picked it up and now use it to do the behavioral stuff, the sex addiction. Or they're taking the stuff from the dude in the 80s, Patrick Carnes. 99% of what people are going to tell you to do in any therapy program, church, or self-guided thing, they're just taking the principles from what those people taught, period. And like, we've done our research. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's about pulling it all together in a way that works for you, right? And so it's like, if you love the Patrick Carnes stuff, I love it for you. If you love the 12 stuff, I love it for you. But what you have to create is safety. So here's ways that you can go do it. You got to go do that. And so it just leads people to lead themselves.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I loved, is like if you look at 12 steps, like the first step is honesty, right?
No,
but
incorrect. Well, the first step is surrender.
In the 12 steps.
Yeah, the first 3 steps. I have to admit I'm powerless. This is the first step. It's written like 8 different ways depending on which camp.
That's not the 12 step I've gone to. First
What?
step is always honesty, is it not? Well, okay, admitting that I am of myself, I'm powerless. They would phrase that as honesty.
What's your definition of honesty?
That's the way I would phrase it, and that's the way I've always learned it. So that's
Honesty is admitting I'm powerless.
Hey, you're losing the point, Steve. Steve.
Well, it's just not true what the 12 step says.
Okay.
I'm not even like the biggest 12 step guy, and here I am defending the 12 steps. I mean, I've read a ton about it. There's a lot
Okay,
of
the
good
first
things
thing
in
that
there.
happens in the 12 steps is that you have to,
Surrender and admit you're powerless.
yes, which is honesty, right? Okay. My point
Keep
is,
going.
My point is, what happens is, I think what happened for me is, I'd be like, okay, cool, how? Or I'd be like, okay, cool, but I don't feel like, why do I get stuck there? Like, I want to do it, but I can't. And you said that word, like, cool, I want to do the thing. Awesome. Right? This provides like a system where like, it gets really in touch with the why behind things, right? Like, why do I struggle to do things, right? And it goes and it starts healing those things through experiences. But the second thing is like, you suddenly, when I did these experiences, I started wanting to do things that I didn't initially want to do. And that's healing. Mm-hmm. So that was one of my big takeaways as I started doing these. And I was doing them a little bit too quick at first because I was like, I want to do all these. Right.
Sam calls me. Okay, I'm going to get these done in a certain time frame, in the exact amount. Like, you're good, dude.
Yeah, it was fun. That was a fun conversation. You were like, yeah, hey.
Let me know how that works out for you.
You don't have to.
In fairness, you're being kind to me because we're getting guys' stories and stuff. Where
Yeah,
you were
that
going to
was-
say
No.
something.
Oh, I was just gonna say the one thing that kind of when you're talking about how there's so much out there, like there's all these modalities, but one thing that this guide I feel like it does really well is it teaches people how to build their own recovery, because I think recovery is so individual for every single person, right? Like James has some shame that I don't have, and I have some shame that James doesn't have, but it helps people identify their own shame. It helps people identify what safety is for that individual, because that's I like you could sit here and say all day like, hey, this is safety for me and this is what you guys need to do for your safety, but no, that's not the case. Like you said, it helps people create their own recovery, it helps people create their own safety, it helps people create their own shame resilience, and to have those own individual experiences that will help them in the recovery. That's one thing that, kind of going off what you were saying, I think that's super impactful. That's been impactful for me as I've been working through those experiences, that's been able to create my own recovery for me instead of having someone tell me this is X, Y, and Z. If you do these 3 steps, you're going to be golden.
100%.
And it's because those 3 steps have never worked for me, no matter how many times I try them. But this has felt better.
And depending on the camp, right? Because if I said recovery work is exactly the way it worked in my life, so here's the 5 steps according to Stephen Shields, there is a camp of people that will be true for. Right? There'll be a camp of people that'll be like, the Steve Shields program is number 1. Those are the 5 steps. And it worked for me just because they have similar traumas to me, they have similar background or whatever, like, so that they're unique. When we look in the sea of people out there, they're enough similar to me and we're enough similar and homogeneous from our background, our needs, how we got into addiction, all that it might work. So I don't want to knock that doesn't happen.
Oh, yeah.
But it doesn't happen enough, right? So for me, I look at the stats in recovery are, I would say they're dismal at best. If you go look at the stats of how many people actually recover, it is beyond tragic. And so I just think that's not God's standard, right? I don't think God is like, yeah, I hope that maybe 20% of the men who are addicted to porn overcome it in this life. I do not think that's what God has for us. I think God has it for everyone right now. Our faith is in our own way. And I can tell you, just because we spend enough time around it, right, as you're talking about, people prescribe these specific steps and it works for me or it doesn't work. That's where I think, like I said, beginning of the episode, one of the problems we saw in different camps is people are like, this is the camp and everything else is stupid. I've heard a bunch of therapists bag on free resources and free group. Bunch of them in back rooms. 12-step is stupid, all that stuff's stupid, they don't really know, everyone needs to go to therapy. I guess that makes sense if you're a therapist to say that out loud. I know church people. They're like, yeah. You can go get the clinical help, but it's Jesus that heals. No therapist is going to heal you. Jesus is going to heal you. So you got to go spend all that money and that time and go to therapy and do that? You need God in your life, right? And then you look at the 12-step people. Dr. Bob had tons, or Bill W., Dr. Bob had tons of church hurt. When Bill W. started holding the meetings in New York, his pastor held a special Saturday meeting to say, don't go to any meetings that look like this, or this, specifically calling out his meetings. Like trashed him in front of the whole congregation. Tons of church hurt. And then also they took all of their stuff from Carl Jung and the Oxford group. They didn't make it up. They got it from a hyper-religious group who they didn't want to be associated with. So they started in the 12-step with church hurt and some anti-church sentiments. Which is why today, through that culture, you can sit in a bunch of 12-step groups where they go, this is my church now. I've heard that in a bunch of different 12-step groups. So the 12-step people are anti-church and anti-therapy. The church people are anti-therapy and anti-free groups. The therapy people are anti-church, a lot of them, and then anti the free stuff. And so if you're in the 12-step camp, you are not getting the valuable assets in recovery that are in the church camp and in the therapy camp. And to your point, like, you might need a couple of those. And if you're in the therapy camp saying everything that's free is stupid, you're missing the power of brotherhood and organic relationships and it just being real that is so connective, that shapes so many people's recovery. You're missing it. And so many people are missing that spiritual walk that changes people. And so the guidebook is to really bring everyone together, and so it's hard because I've experienced it with some church leaders, and it's like, hey, you should start running 12-step meetings in your church. And you're like, Yep, as someone who's trying to convert everyone to Christ, I want to hand people a book that says, God is whatever you say he is. Just God as you make it up. God as you think it is. What you think is good, do that. I get why a pastor doesn't want to hand that to people. Who's trying to get people to accept Christ as their Lord and Savior. To hand a book that's like, I don't know, maybe it's Jesus, maybe it's not. Just you kind of decide. I get why they would have a problem with that, right? And so it doesn't invite those parts in, right? And so what 12-step has done super successfully, church groups keep trying to recreate on their own, even though the 12 steps and the 12 steps community has a lot of data on how to create really good group, peer facility group. They do it better than anyone else in the world, right? And so it's allowing it all to really come together. And that's the hope, is that it's a unifying force. It's not about everyone leaving whatever camp they're in and now unashamed is the sauce, right? It's to invite people to bring their church stuff, bring their therapy, bring their 12-step or other peer facilitated groups that they're a part of and have it all come together, because it all does come together.
So when does it release, Stephen?
Well, so an exact release date is not yet official.
Still pending.
Because a couple things have to happen. So one, it has to be edited. And a big reason why we wanted to come on here, right, is one thing that helps people understand and experience is to share story, right? That's why we started Unashamed Unafraid. That's why you're here running it now. That's why it's the whole experience, is because although my recovery doesn't look exactly like everyone else's in this room, right? So I'm not like, oh, yeah, Devin, I just have to do what Devin does, and that's my recovery. In hearing Devin's story, right, or hearing Ian's story, I'm like, oh, that's the piece I'm missing about church. Because when Devin shared about how he was really offended in church, and he was like, I'm done with God, but then we shared how he kind of reconciled his relationship with God, that's the story I needed to hear for that piece. And so one thing we're gathering right now is, and you guys have been part of the sample, is as we started having people share their recovery stories, right? Because so many of these principles are already principles in recovery. We didn't like walk on a mountain and God gave us the truth that no one else has, right? This is about bringing everyone and all of it together. And so as we handed it, some people were like, yeah, so we just want your story on safety. So, Scott wasn't like, Ian, just give me your story on safety. And he's like, I don't know what you mean. I'm like, you've made it far enough from recovery. I know you've created some safety. It's like, okay. I'm like, so give me a story of that. We're going to throw it in the book. Like, I don't know. So what we've shifted to is we want to just pilot it with a bunch of people, right? With a bunch of men in recovery to allow them to experience the guidebook so that we can put some stories in there. And one thing that's different than, some different groups. So it was like very important when they wrote the 12 steps. A lot of the people who actually originally helped wrote it never got sober. And so they just kind of omitted them from the history. Now, it's not because Bill W. and Dr. Bob were like snake oil salesmen are bad. It was just very important to them that it was a message of hope. And so they wanted to put spotlight on people who had made it and were hopeful stories, right? So it wasn't shady. It wasn't anything like that, right? But for us, we're not leaning on men's stories or why this is true, or we're not leaning on because of our therapy backgrounds it's true. We're leaning on all of it coming together. And so our ask, Stephen at Unashamed Unafraid, James at Unashamed Unafraid, email us if you want to pilot the Unashamed Guidebook, and we can throw your story in there. As you experience some of these things, we want people to write about it. Ian's written some beautiful stuff and seen it, and you're working through it and seeing it. And so, right, it's to be able to pilot some of those stories just so that just helps people get some context. So it's the story that you just shared about going and learning how to gym. So that when someone reads the guidebook and they're like, pick 3 men around things you're ashamed about and ask them to help you, and they're like, I don't even know what that means. They have 4 or 5 stories right there that they can go, oh, he asked this guy to gym. Oh, okay. I wanted to ask a guy to know how to garden. Okay, I get it. Okay. And then they can go have the experience that they need to have, right? And so story does help people understand concepts. And so that's our ask. So I wanted to crash the show. wanted to, miss you guys. Want everyone to know I'm not dead. We are actually doing something in the background over here. But also to ask, just we're ready for people to pilot it and share some of the experiences in there. So as we move to actually publish the book, there's some, like the story you just shared, Sam, of being taught how to gym, right? And so people can do that. So if this has any interest, and we're 100% fine to take skeptics. So if you're like, I think this is the biggest load of BS, this is some copy and paste job of some other program or whatever, I'm fine with that. Come as a skeptic and see if anything works for you. And if any part of it does, let us write about it. In true fashion, though, I'll give this disclaimer because I've given it to everyone. We are unashamed. So these will not be anonymous stories placed in a book. These will. Now, you don't have to have people contact you after if you don't want to, but you will use your real name. So some people for careers and licensing and different things and can't use their full name, and we'll respect that. And it is an unashamed process. So come join us, share your story, try on the guidebook, see what happens. I don't know is there another way to say that?
Get the guidebook and start a group. Lead a group. Don't do it alone.
Yep. Yeah, we see that right in the front of the book. Like, if you do it alone, you're doing it wrong. But we're going to have people pilot some different experiences. I don't know. Anything we missed, Ian?
No.
About the guidebook? Someone who's experienced it?
Nope. I just think that everything in there is super inspired, and each experience kind of builds off the other. And so kind of going through the experiences in order really helps. And it just really creates a long lasting way to kind of find true recovery. And it's been really impactful for me. So hopefully lots of people reach out, keep piloting it, keep building it up.
Steve, it's been a while. I'm going to let you close it up.
Heck no, man. It's your deal.
I want them to hear the classic Steve closing it out.
It's like on 100 episodes, bro. Everyone's done hearing me.
You don't want to go like retro and give them a
No,
taste
you have like 1 million sound bites of me. I talked
right.
like 80% of this episode.
Guys, thanks for...
They laugh
That's
because it's
actually
true.
That's true. Guys, thanks for watching. Find us on social media at Unashamed Unafraid. If you have a story and you want to share it on the podcast, if you know a professional who might be good and has some good takeaways, we'd love to have them on. Reach out to us. Contact at unashamedunafraid.com. If you would like to really do something that will help us as an organization, you can become an outsider. That includes just a small monthly donation or big. And you can go to unashamedunafraid.com and donate monthly to help us. That just helps us do what we do and affect more people. So thank you for being on the podcast today. Find us on YouTube. Give us a 5-star rating wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, continue to live unashamed.